Hey, what's up everybody? You know, I woke up this morning and I thought that it was very important for me to give back to the kayaking community. It's been really great to me, and since I've got so much experience and years online doing this, that I wanted to give some safety tips. Basically, the 10 ways that you could get yourself in trouble and probably die in a kayak. Hey, look out! Look at this idiot. Hey! Hey! So in this video, I'm talking about the 10 ways that you could kill yourself in a kayak. I was under the bridge, the train was right on top of it. Because if I talk about these, then you can prepare for them and it won't happen to you. So this is real life knowledge, guys, so here we go.
I got Jack! Oh, Jack's got one on the tree trunk!
Like this forever. I wanna stay right here with you. Wanna stay right here with you. As the rest we fall.
Alright, so it's like 35 degrees today. It's freezing cold, and that brings me to my number one topic of dangerous things, and that's cold water. Cold water and kayaks, because you're so close to it, is really not a good thing. Remember that you lose temperature very fast if you hit that water. So you've got to plan your trip around how you dress and everything when you're going in cold water, especially with cold temperatures outside. You know, it's just very dangerous. I would highly recommend bringing an extra set of clothes in a dry bag and just keep it stowed away. Maybe even some way to make a fire if you're going out in the wilderness. You're going way out there. You got to be able to get yourself warm again if you get wet. It's happened to me. It's not a fun situation, and you better hope you have a battle buddy with you when you go. And this really rings true if you're going in rough water. You could possibly get splashed too. Be super careful of those waders and those rubber boots, because those rubber boots will fill up with water. It's a no bueno. And waders, they can get full up too. Make sure you got one of those little, you know, suppression straps on there, whatever you call them, that keeps the water from coming in as much. Wear your life vest on top of it. Cold water will get you. So my number two thing is rolling over. Rolling over can be really dangerous. I mean, and it can happen out of the middle of nowhere, especially if you got a lot of gear in there. It's really whether can you get back in, is it super dangerous, but with a lot of gear it can be even harder, I promise. You got them rods sticking out the top of your kayak, flipping it back over can be tough when they're on the bottom. Really make sure that you got some athletic wear on when you go out there. I mean, some clothes that when they get wet, they don't get waterlogged. That can be pretty dangerous. You want to make sure you got something you can swim in. Be careful of those boots, especially rubber boots. I know I'm mentioning that again, but shoes are the hardest things to swim in, I promise. Water Survival School, 2009, Officer Candidate School. Boots filled up with water, down I went, almost drowned. I'm just telling you, it'll happen. I usually never wear boots or any type of shoes when I go out. If I'm going kayak fishing in the winter or kayaking and I have to wear shoes, it's tennis shoes, and I can always slip those off if I have to. Those shoes will definitely drown you faster than anything else besides like a wool coat. But brings me to my next point. We're talking about life vests. See my life vests over here? I have two. I have one that I begin with, and then I have the one that I actually have now. It's the Stillquest Fisherman. It's an awesome one, and this was my first one. It's just a cheap one from this one right here. It's just a cheap one from Walmart. So my theory on these things is if they're comfortable, they're not too hot, they fit you right, and you can swim in it, you'll wear it. It really doesn't, you really don't notice it. I don't notice it because I keep my fishing stuff in there, my pliers, my hooks, my weights, things like that, keep them on me. And that's why I really don't mind wearing a life vest. I can swim in it. I know I can swim in it. So if my kayak rolls, I get separated from it, I can just, you know, swim. Swim, baby, swim. Not really a big deal, but it would be if I'm like a mile in the middle of the bay or a mile offshore. But I know if worse comes to worse, I can baby swim it back in. I can doggy paddle. I can do just a little shuffle. It's gonna suck, but I know I can do it. You might want to get one that's bright colored. Mine's green. That's the only color they had. But if you got yellow, you can be seen by the Coast Guard. Keep that in mind. It's just, you know, one of those things. I like green. I'm willing to chance it. I'm willing to chance it. And this brings me to my next subject, is sinking. You know, some people don't really think that a kayak will sink. Let me tell you, it will sink. You know, this is whether you're just kayaking or kayak fishing. I know I've been talking a lot about kayak fishing, but just kayak in general, kayak will sink. That's why I don't really recommend sit-in kayaks. I want to sit on top kayak. Now, sit on tops will still sink, let me tell you. You could be gaffing a fish and miss with the gaff hook, stick a hole right in the side of the kayak. Seen that happen, seen guys have to get rescued like that. You could have too many waves breaking over the bow, your seals don't work real good in your kayak. You get water, gets top heavy, it'll start sinking. You could have a little pinhole in one of your drive wells or scupper holes. Take water, it'll sink. I actually had to bail myself out in the last King of the Isle with a dish rag. Actually, it was a towel. Got like that much water out of the bottom of my kayak by doing that. So they will sink, and especially when you're coming back in, like the break, or you know, you've rolled it a couple times, got a lot of water in it, and then you get kind of, you know, soggy, kind of start doing this when you're coming in. It can roll, and then it'll definitely sink. And then once you get it where there's enough water coming over the top of it, sometimes you might have to swim back in. I've seen guys actually have to jettison their kayak because there was a hole in it and swim in. But there's a cool trick to this. You can just put pool noodles inside your kayak, and it'll add extra flotation. So if you ever get in that situation, it won't sink as fast. It will kind of keep it, you know, floating even if it's full of water. Stuff 2 or 3 pool noodles from the dollar store. One couple in the front, couple in the back, maybe a couple in the middle. You should be good. Just a theory. That's what I do. Don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure it'll work. So the next one that can really get you in trouble and possibly kill you is boats. Those guys will run over you. Most of them aren't paying attention. Most of them shouldn't even be on the water to begin with. Now, I'm not picking on boaters. I'm just saying it can be that some of those guys don't pay attention when they're driving. Sometimes the way boats are shaped, bows up, water's kind of rolly. You're caught as a kayaker in the swell, they don't see you, and then they go right over top of you. I've been going down the beach before, rough water, in a boat, and you can't hardly see the kayakers, especially in a center console where the guy's up and they're down. Just keep in mind, bright clothing, bright kayaks, and a flag. Get a big flag, whippy flag if you're worried about it. Whistle's really not going to do you any good, but the Coast Guard says you need one. That's for if you're overboard and they're looking for you. Air horn's probably not going to do too good because they probably can't hear that either. But just keep that in mind. Stay cognitive. Have your little light on at night. So, collisions and swamping. Big barge can come by. Big wave comes over the top of your kayak, swamps you, rolls you. They can push a lot of water. You're going to have to get back in the kayak. So, keep those in mind. Big waves coming, nose into the wave, paddle into it, you'll come out fine, unless it's like a tidal wave or something. But that is just, you know, a couple of key points to boaters. You see them coming, turn your GoPro on, brace for impact, let them know you're there. The rest is history. Just stay out of those big boat lanes, shipping lanes, in the middle of the bridges. Don't hide behind pylons where they can't see you. Make sure you're visible, especially at night. So number 7 is like immovable objects. Bridges, rocks, cliffs. I was under the bridge, the train was right on top of it. I was like, this place looks like a good spot. It's like, this gotta be a striper in this joint. I look up, here comes the train. Things where there's a lot of swirling water, fast water next to one of these, rapids, things like that. Don't be next to those in bad water, because if you get caught up against them, quick way to get rolled, thrown into the pilings, the barnacles. Big boats can't see you, they'll wash you in there. Once you get underneath, you're outside your kayak. It's gonna be really hard to get back in with a lot of other fast moving water. Before you know it, you're 3 miles down the beach. Happened to me in Destin. I'm preaching to myself here because it happened to me in Destin. Almost died. It took me like a mile to right the kayak because the water was moving that fast. Destin Harbor's got like one of the worst outgoing rip currents to the pass of anywhere. Know your water, because I almost died that day. Didn't have the vest on, flipped it on as I was going on, couldn't get it zipped up. So keep that in mind too. You can't always zip a life vest up if you're in the water. It's tough. So the next one is animals, okay? Y'all might be thinking this is crazy, but no, sharks are real. If you're chumming, if toes are in the water, triggerfish will get you just as bad as a shark will. Or if you're just kayaking and you're chilling and there's a lot of bait around and your feet are in the water, be careful. Or if you've caught a king mackerel or any type of something like that, big crabs, toothy critters, and you put them in the kayak the wrong way, they gonna get you. And a king mackerel can send you to the hospital just as fast as a shark can. So Just keep that in mind. Oh, spiny ones. Catfish, as in hardhead saltwater catfish, send you to the hospital. What's another one? Lionfish, send you to the hospital. Well, you might not have to go to the hospital, but you're going to wish you were at the hospital. But just thinking, keep in mind, animals, dolphins, jellyfish. Dolphins are just as bad. They can flip you, harass you, turn your boat over. You know, be very wary of a pod of dolphins. Don't think they're like Flipper and they're just going to be nice to you. Those big bulls will get after you. They don't like you being there. So one of my last ones, it's like second to last, is getting stranded. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story right quick. If you've watched some of my old videos, kayak fishing videos, Rob, the guy with the yellow ocean kayak, Frenzy, he got sucked out the Pensacola Pass. And he's as fish as they come. I mean, this guy's a real guy kayaker. He doesn't even need the kayak. He could just swim with his fishing pole. And he got sucked out the Pensacola Pass. There was no coming back. The water was moving that fast. It was a day he shouldn't have been out there. That's just Rob's personality. Gets sucked out the Pensacola Pass. It dumps him out, 3 or 4 miles offshore. And he realizes he can't come back through the Pensacola Pass. So he had to strand his kayak, pull it across Fort Pickens to the other side of the bay, get far enough away from the pass where he could paddle back across to where he put in at. So always know where the water current's going to take you and what's your plan B if you get sucked out there, because sometimes you might have to call for help, call an Uber, call one of your buddies to come get your kayak. It's a real thing. Another story, one of my other buddies, Jimmy, he's on a couple of my videos, he was paddleboard fishing, got sucked down the beach, and had to walk 3 miles back to his car. So these things happen. So know where you could get stranded at. Know a plan B. Always have your cell phone, because you might have to call somebody. And this happen too if your kayak takes on water, like blow a mirage drive, something like that. I always know about where I'm going, so I don't get stranded. And if I did get stranded, I know about where I'm going to be. There's a garbage truck doing something over there. But to round that story up, one day Rob did also get stranded in the water management area on the Escambia River. Coast Guard wouldn't come after him. FWC wouldn't come after him. It was like up to us to go find him. And he had to find his way back. There was no cell phone reception. There was no nothing. It was up to him to guide his way back through the canals to get back. Or he was just going to spend the night out there. So you pack a little fire starter kit, a couple blankets, might even have a couple chem lights and a flashlight, because that happens. But I just want to say that can be a killer too, because I did lose a friend years ago when we were kids. So that exact same thing happened when his John boat rolled over, and he spent the next 3 or 4 days on the river, and he died. So it can happen. Real story. And these are just true stories from the heart. Same way with that animal one. Caught a catfish right here. Bottom fin got right here, stuck in here. Simultaneously the top fin stuck in my leg. Couldn't paddle, couldn't go anywhere. And if it wasn't for a friend being there, I would have gone out the pass. It would have been bad. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. True story. And that kind of brings me into my last one. And it's lights on kayaks at night. Everybody thinks, oh, I don't need a light because I can see, or I don't have to worry about boaters seeing me. But it's not really about that. It's about orientation on the water, and about being able to tell where your friends are at. So if I'm with 2 other guys and I can see their little lights off in the distance, I know the last time I saw them about where they were. I could tell about where they were. I see them over there, they're about a half mile over there. And I kind of have an orientation of where they are if they get in trouble or I don't see them in a while. Kind of cruise over there, find them. I can tell where everybody's like little fireflies in the water. So how'd you do stay oriented? Because I remember one time Rob was looking to a big shark, and it took him all the way across Pensacola Bay, and all I could see was his little light out there. And at some point he lost his light, and he pretty much had to land on the other side of Gulf Breeze in a neighborhood and call me because he was that far away. So never think that you don't need a light. I'm guilty for not having lights, but if you were to roll your kayak and all of a sudden you're needing help and I can't see you in the dark, or my friends can't see you, your friends can't see you, then nobody knows where you're at and they can't come and save you, and that can end in a catastrophe. So that's really, I wanted to do this video, guys, for if you can prepare for it, it won't happen to you, and if you know it can happen to you, that dump truck is getting on my nerves. And it can happen to you. You can prepare for it and it won't happen to you. So that's really See the garbage truck guy? I promise you I was lying. But that's really all I got, guys. I wanted to put this out here because I owe it back to the kayaking community because y'all been so good to me. I want to make sure everybody's safe on the water. I want to make sure that everybody knows things that could get them in a lot of trouble and you can stay away from them. Comment down below if you've had any of these situations so everybody else can learn from your situation. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.